This morning, I came across a topic or a story in the New York Post, and it was Fox News or whatever, Charles Gasparino, who was opining over the possibility, over this incomprehensible thought of Kamala not attending the 79th annual Al Smith dinner. This is a tradition in New York City. Al Smith was the first, I think he ran in 28 or something, the first Catholic nominee. He was a big New York famous person, kind of a bit rough around the edges, but in any event, and it's odd. It was at the Waldorf every year, and they wore white tie and tails. You might have seen this, and it's this tradition every year, the third October, I'm sorry, the third Thursday in October every year. Anyway, it's this big event, and Gasparino. In fact, let me quote him on this. He has this. I thought to myself, this says it all. This absolutely says it all. Here we go. Is this Charles Gasparino? He said something to the effect of, will Kamala be the first person ever to ditch the Al Smith dinner? And he really thought it was a big deal. Like, wow, could she dare do this? Do you think she could she really dare ditch the what? Can you imagine? Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Media shy Kamala will likely find an excuse to skip the Al Smith dinner and avoid a run in with Trump. And the 79th year, Cardinal Dolan, blah, 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 the muckety mucks, it's formal and all this stuff. And I thought to myself, what he is really saying is, can you believe that she would duck tradition like that? Can you believe that something as steeped in tradition, that she's so crazy that she's such okay. This is the most incredible thing in the world. And I thought to myself, they just don't understand this. Now, tradition, I am just so that you know this, my whole analysis on everything is trying to blend tradition that makes sense with superstition. And some people are just so tough. Like they'll say, well, the endorsements, and I love this. There was a time, you may remember this. There was a time when people said, well, did they get the New York Times endorsement? Nobody cares about the endorsement anymore, but they're still living in the past. A movie comes out and they'll say, I wonder how many star, I mean, how did it, I wonder what Gene Siskel thinks. That just this, nobody cares about that. It's word of mouth. It's Yelp or Instagram, whatever it is. Everything is changing. And my first message for you today, please, is understand what changes, what stays the same, and what's the gravamen. What's the issue issue here? And you have people like Charles Gasparino. I'm sure he's a nice guy. Who he's one of these ones who love to say, "Look, I'm doing pull-ups." Okay, good. All right. There's something about that. When a grown man says, "Look, I'm punching the bag." I don't know if he did this, but I always think, "Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right." If I see a bunch of rich white not rich, seemingly rich, moms for liberty meetings, okay, I got it. I got what that means. I got it. I understand what's happening. I mentioned yesterday Dom Lucre. Dom Lucre, L-U-C-R, like lucre, from Latin lucre, lucre from money, like lucrative. Um, he does this wonderful piece, wonderful piece, and he's showing how two, and he's got not dreadlocks, but if you look at him, he's a younger. Obviously, he's probably one of the most important. He would be on my advisory capacity to find out what is going on in every particular aspect. What's going on in the hip hop world? What's going on in the Black community, Latino community? Tell me what's going on. And then there's Charles Gasparino. Do you think she's going to skip the Al Smith dinner? I thought, wow, this says it all. The year's 2024, and you're not understanding how these things work. I spend my time fascinated by how things change, how to grasp the notion of trends. Why are things coming back? Are they really coming back? What matters? What doesn't? And it's very difficult when you tell people this. Oh, it matters. It doesn't matter. When I hear people say, for example, well, he did a great rally. Nobody cares about a rally, maybe except in that state, when people in that state, provided the rally is covered, you want to, for example, go to Pennsylvania and say fracking is it. Okay, but that's it. And I'm just fascinated by the notion of the elections and how nobody, Gasparino, first of all, he's not going to say this if he's working for, remember, understand something. And I'm not picking on Charles Gasparino. I just saw this, but Fox is going to be saying nothing about voter integrity. Nobody's talking about votes. That's the first thing I'm thinking about. You're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing yourself an absolute disservice. An absolute disservice. There's other things that are happening right now. There are things that just change. I want to tell people, for example, what really matters when Bill Maher says something. Does Bill Maher matter, or does he matter to people who only care about Bill Maher? Does Jon Stewart matter? Does Jerry Seinfeld matter? What really matters? And I am telling you, you could put all of your money on anything you want. The Al Smith dinner, but the fact of Dom Lucre yesterday showing two, and I trust him to tell me, two hip hop big Grammy whatever meeting, wearing not only at a Trump rally, wearing "Make America Great Again." This was shape shifting and seismic. Now, go to Charles Gasparino. Again, I just pick his name. I'm sure he's a fine. Never met the man. Go to Charles Gasparino and say, Charles, what do you think about that? So look at you and say, who cares a bunch of rappers with gold metal teeth and what are you talking about? It's when something becomes cool, and it's something that goes to fads and behaviors. That is the thing. Always look at the data. Always look at the trends. Bobby Kennedy was doing an interview with Tucker Carlson, and no matter how, despite Tucker's own internal demons, it's still one of the most effective parts of this mosaic there is. And he was saying, Bobby Kennedy was saying that in the 60s or so, the rate of autism was 1 in, oh God, don't quote me, 1,500, 15,000. I forget what it was. But today, 1 in 34. And we're not talking a little bit like, well, he's a little bit off. That's a trend nobody's paying attention to. Is Fox News going to talk about that? No. Why? Because that calls into account Big Pharma. Pharma just doesn't talk about that. We don't talk about that. So the first thing I'm trying to explain to you is recognize this one thing. Who is telling you what's important and what's not? How does this thing work? So many of you great, wonderful people will tell me things like, I can't get my brother-in-law to understand. Well, your brother-in-law is not paying attention. What about polls? Do the polls work? They work, but not those polls. It's like some surgeries work. There's a difference between a heart transplant and a Brazilian butt lift. Now, those are kind of surgeries, sort of. I mean, you're cutting, but they're completely different. So polls matter, but not all polls. Then you got to look at what's going on. How does this thing actually work? Who are the people who have not yet decided what they're going to do? Who? Who is it? Who are people? Because remember, this is very complicated. It's not what people think. It's not what people believe. It's the numbers that end up that people will see. The numbers. That's it. Does that make any sense to you? I don't care what people think. I don't care whether what somebody thinks about a particular interview or how did Kamala do. Doesn't matter to me. The ultimate is what is going to be not the actual numbers, but the official numbers. And that's a big difference. Ryan says, Mark Halperin, a straight shooter, said this week his sources told him the Harris campaign internals are terrible compared to the public polling. If you're within 4 points of Trump, you're losing. Debate scares the Dems. You know, Ryan, first and foremost, and I thank you, that makes a lot of sense. Okay? Number one, you have to ask yourself, what is Mark Halperin's job? What is Mark Halperin's job? Who is Mark Halperin? Do we like Mark Halperin because he's saying something that we like? You say he's a straight shooter. Are other people straight shooters? I think he's correct about this. And I've also always told you as well that the internals, that the polls, that the internal people, put it this way, that the money, the really serious polls, and when you pick them and when you decide them, all of these have been determined. All of these, dare I say, all of these, ladies and gentlemen, have been already figured out. Let's do a couple of things here. Number one, here's how Trump wins. And it has nothing to do, listen to what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with who's better, who's more prepared, who's more likable. And remember this, and I know you're going to laugh at this, it depends on the numbers that are on the board ultimately. Those numbers. If you and I we go to a team, go to a football game. Now, it may be fixed. They may be throwing this, but you and I will count the touchdowns and say, yep, 6 touchdowns to 5 touchdowns. I saw them. That's the final score. Now, that's a different story. See what I'm saying? That's a different story. You're watching. Now, it may be fixed, but imagine walking into a football game and you can say, we're going to let the public in after halftime. And you walk in and the score says 42-13. You didn't see the first part. You're going to walk in assuming that's correct. That's kind of what elections are. You're assuming these numbers are correct. And you have been conditioned by virtue of the 2020 election that if we're going to throw into the conspiracy theory pot, remember, and that word, thank you. I've always said that word is going to just run its course. It's like racist. Racist is done. You notice that? Racist is through. Because it's been used so much. It's done. So if I were to go on there and I were to sit, let's say I walk into a Fox News or a Newsmax or whatever it is, and I said, you're missing the point, Gasparino. The question is, if it says that Kamala won Pennsylvania, do you believe that? Is that true? Did that really happen? You can't talk about that. Why? Because you are so freaked out. And we're not talking about Dominion. Remember, I've never talked about a company, a machine, algorithm, nothing. No. I'm talking about the whole process. Do you question that? Do you? In the old days, remember when Mark, who was it? Lance Armstrong. Remember when Lance Armstrong said, "Yeah, but was he on PEDs? Well, let's check his urine. Let's check his blood. Let's check his tissue. Let's check this. Let's check." We don't. Yes, we know he ran. We know he won, but do we really believe that? We don't know. Let's check this. Let's check that. So I hate to be boring today, but the first thing is, and God bless you for that, what Mark Halpern says is, assuming the numbers are true. See, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do that. Remember in the old days when, like, remember right around when I was in high school, bodybuilding really came out of nowhere. And it was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Franco Columbu. They always called him Columbo. It's Columbu. And there were others as well, Lou Ferrigno and others, Ferrigno. And people say, well, it's Arnold is he going to win the Mr. Olympia? Say, excuse me. Yeah, this is Joe Weider. Joe Weider's brother, Ben, runs the IFBB or whatever. Joe Weider runs this. Joe Weider, his star person is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Would you stop asking, could Arnold win this year? He's going to win this year. Why? Because Joe Weider is running. What are you talking about? Frank Zane. Remember the old days? Frank Zane, Reg Park, others. There were, they kind of mix them up a little bit. This is before the real serious steroid, before Dorian Yates and all this stuff. But everybody was, and I remember in high school was laughing. I'm saying, even then I realized Ben Weider runs this. That's Joe Weider's brother. Joe Weider's got all of his Muscle Magazine, Muscle Development. It's an Arnold Schwarzenegger. What are you talking about? This is not this is nothing but judges who are. So the more you have, the more you are able to remove extraneous influences. Powerlifting. Okay, let's look at powerlifting. Who's going to lift the most? Well, who's doing steroids? Okay, that's a whatever. Okay. What is the purest sport? I don't know if anything is the purest. How about boxing? Do you realize that boxing, and people are going back, I am so bored of MMA and all this jujitsu, so bored of it, so bored. It's just, it's sloppy, and I know they love that stuff. Boxing is going to come back. Boxing is still, it's a guy. The gloves may be a little bit different. The trunks may look different, but it's basically me against you, and I'm trying to knock the hell out of you. And there were different styles, or whatever it is. Okay. I don't want to belabor the point, but my friend, please, let's start off with the application, the practical procedure, how people win elections. Forget it's what the numbers say. Then you follow up with, well, who controls the numbers? And then we throw into the mix, then we have the media. The media are reporting things, and the media, for the most part, are bought off. The biggest threat to the media is what's happening right now with Brazil, what's happening with X and Elon Musk. And most Americans are absolutely clueless. I have these, let me tell you how bad it is. I have friends of mine, and they fancy themselves as being really politically smart. And I used to be far more social. I really was far more social. Hey, want to have lunch with whatever? I say no, because it always takes me 2 days to recover. Because I realized this guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Doesn't know what he's talking about. Charlie, Gasparino, bless his heart. Typhus. It's like, what are we looking at here? What are we talking about? Remember the old days when you would see pictures of doctors smoking? And you would say, how are these doctors smoking? That's the way I look at political commentary today. And the best commentary are people who are on this thing. And one of these days, people are really going to understand how critical and how important, might be after he's long gone, how important the internet was during the nascent period of Alex Jones, right a little bit and at the time of 9/11, 2000, 2001. That's when it was the greatest. It was the Wild West. And today, adding to the mix, we've got the shadow government. The people that run the world are saying, we've got to do something. We better crack the genie's out of the bottle, the toothpaste out of the tube. We don't control anything. We've got to shut these people down. And they are scared. They turned their back, and all of a sudden, the internet, boom. And they tried everything, misinformation. And then you pick these idiots like, and she's an idiot. Do not me. I'll bet you if you sat next to Kamala, let's say you were at a wedding and you sat and you didn't know who she was. She was just somebody's, aunt or neighbor or something. You'd probably love her. She is basically a very, I'll bet you'd like her. I bet you she's just plain old, whatever. Most people, I remember somebody telling me years ago who met Obama when he was first starting off. Said he was very cold. It might have been because he was a little bit fish out of water, but he was very cold. George Bush, love the people. You'd love him. I don't know what you feel about George Bush, but a lot of these people remember. And then other people are very strange because remember, they're acting at levels of acting you've never seen before. They're acting in a role where the role in the script changes greatly. The worst actor alive today is Robert De Niro, and it goes to show you they will tell you this is the funniest man who has ever lived. I'll call it the Norm Macdonald phenomenon. If you listen to anybody on TV, they will tell you without a doubt, people like Joe Rogan and others will tell you that Norm Macdonald was the funniest person who ever lived. Not even close. But to be considered one of the comedians who takes the set, even the politics then, do you want a prime spot at the Comedy Store in LA? Yeah. Well, did I hear you say that you did like Norm Macdonald? Yeah, forget it. You're out of here. Oh, no, I love Norm Macdonald. Even within comedy, you have to say the right things. You have to. They're doing it right now with string theory. There's a fellow named Eric Weinstein, whom I love. I don't know what he's talking about, but he's going after Leonard Susskind. He's going after, oh my God, he's great. He's destroying everybody. And in the Brian Greene, and even in the physics community, they say, who the hell is this guy? I love the people who tear everything apart, the ones who going back, I hate to say this comedy thing because I get into this. There was a fellow named Mitch Hedberg who I think was from another planet. And nobody really, I don't know if people got it. But if I give you the seal of approval, he's really that good. He was, there will never, if you think Stephen Wright's funny, no, and he's not funny. He was brilliant. And there's a difference between being funny and being brilliant. There are some people who say things that are just so incredible. So within the community, so what am I trying to say? Right now, as you speak, I'm with you. Okay, we're talking about this politics. They would have me on no TV show because I would say, first of all, you guys, let's say you guys on Fox News, you're hacks, and you on CNN, you're hacks. You're not here. You were here to say Norm Macdonald's the funniest guy around. Okay, fine. So you're here to do the Republican thing. Okay, I got you. And you're here to satisfy, first and foremost, your target audience, the people who watch Fox News. That's what you do. It's what you should do. It's what you should do. It's called stationality. Radio stations, if you're a country music station, you're not going to play hip hop and vice versa. Nothing personal, but there has to be. If you're an Italian restaurant, you can't have burritos. It's that simple. All right. This is the way it goes. That being said, when you hear somebody speak about whatever you're going on, just like I mentioned before about whether it's physics or the world of comedy or sports, You're stuck within the framework of what we're saying. And the bottom line is you can talk all day long about who's better, who's smarter, but Trump is not going to win if she gets more of the critical vote in critical states. That's it. And I don't mean gets the votes, she gets the numbers. I don't believe any of this. Never. Never. And 2020 did something they wanted to do. The shadow government wants you never to question elections, never to question science, never to question big pharma, never to question lockdowns, never to question the CDC, never. They will shut you down, and they will give you different reasons for it: misinformation, hate, whatever it is. Do you understand what I'm saying? They want to shut you down. They don't want you to ever talk about the truth. And the same thing goes for any of the people you're reading. You're talking about stuff of, well, how do you think the interview did? Okay, that's fine. What does the interview matter? Nothing really that great. The bottom line is, did they ever get those ballots fixed in Pennsylvania? Say, there you go again with the ballots. Absolutely. 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 What do you think is the difference between running the 1931 Le Mans, let's say, and the 2024, whatever it is? What do you think it is? Size of the engine, skill of the drivers, the speed, the teams, the science, right? Isn't that it? Does it have better, like, who's a better driver? Well, maybe, sort of. I don't know. What does it really come down to? How do we really win this? Is Trump really better? Not really. Not if you don't believe so. Is Trump the best embodiment of the Republican Party? No. But who wants that? I don't want that. That's the wrong question. Why do people say they like Kamala? The other day we're driving around, and Mrs. Ellen and I see, and I'm not seeing, I don't know about you, but I'm not seeing the yard signs like I did during BLM, during Biden, Harris. I'm not seeing. I'm not. Now again, I'm trying my best. There is no absolute passion over Kamala. Nothing. Remember when Obama was running? Oh my God! They said that's it. We didn't even have to have an election. This guy's perfect. We love you. You're black. You're smart. You've got a nice family. We feel better about it. You feel better. You'll do. Let's have the election now. You're in. You're in. Just don't worry about it. You're in. No. It was excitement. People were crying. They loved him. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Why were the Beatles so great? I don't know. You can pretend you know. Rick Beato will tell you. Like he knows. He doesn't know a damn thing. If the Beatles had been 2 years earlier, 2 years later, it could have been completely different. I don't know. We don't know. These are not subject to metrics. There is not this thing regarding Kamala. So what do they have to do? They got to cheat, fair and square. They've got to do something else. They've got to hide her. Ask yourself this question. What is it that you're doing? What is it that you would do if you advised her? Speak as little as possible. Do not do the Al Smith dinner. Nobody cares about that. But just stay low. Just stay low. And she can say whatever she wants. She does not have to explain to anybody anything. I would tell Kamala right now, you don't speak. Don't worry. Nobody's going to say, I would have voted for you, but you didn't do the Al Smith dinner. Nobody's going to say that. Charles Gasparino wrote an article in the Post, and he said that you would not do and that's the 79-year. No. Well, you only did one interview, and it was with Dana Bash, and it was not. No, that doesn't matter. Well, Trump's out there, and he's doing all kinds of that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. What would you tell Kamala? And this is where the lawyer comes in. You've got to see the other side's position. I would say what you're going to do is you are going to realize who you are and who you're not. You are great when you. This is when nobody is better. When she walks out, when she and Jazz Hands walk out, they are the best because they look happy. And then if only you could say thank you, good night, and have them just walk out, wave, and keep going, walk off the stage into a car and take off. They are the best. They are the best. They are the best winners. One of these. Hey, we always point to somebody in the. You notice that, right? You point to somebody in the audience. Hey, yeah, there you go. Oh, yeah. How are you? Look at that. Remember when Hillary had that? She was having those seizures. Remember that one? I'll never forget that. I will never forget it. If I met somebody from another planet, I would say 3 things. Number 1, we look in the sky and we see spraying and deny it. Number 2, Hillary Clinton had some type of either epilepsy or some kind of cognitive or neurological fugue. And 3, we believe in stuff in terms of religion that will blow your mind. Remember, if you had proof, you wouldn't need faith. Those are the things that just fascinate me about. But I accept it. I accept it. I know how people are, and I know the way they think. And I know that, and we can talk about all kinds of stuff. How the point's doing, what are we doing, what's going on right now. We have, as we speak, it's 65 days until the election. 65 days. 65 days. And we live in a world which is the most. I mean, let me ask you something. How many people do you think really do not understand the notion of the electoral system, the electoral college, the electoral votes, the fact that you can win on 11 states. You can get 11 states. You can win 11 critical states by just 1 vote. And in the other 39, not get 1 vote. So it's 0 in Delaware, 0. Montana, 0, 0, 0, 0. California, 1 vote more. Ohio, 1 vote more. What kind of system is that? It was supposedly involved. This is my favorite. So that people in little states would say, hey, what about us? Nobody comes to us because we're so small. Nobody cares. Okay, we'll have an electoral system. Well, we still don't go to Delaware because you only have a couple of Delawares. It's okay for senators. That was kind of smart. Everybody gets 2, but not anyway. So this is all nonsense. This is all nonsense. And we can talk about, did Trump do this? Did Trump do that? Did he make a mistake here? Doesn't make a mistake. Is he likable? Does he tweet too much? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. What are we talking about? That's because we've run out of stuff to say. How about his weight? You want to talk about his weight? How about his hair? How about his family? How about Melania? We're just running out of stuff to say. Hey, Mark Halperin, yeah, listen, we're going to have you on CNN. You're not going to give this nonsense about the internal polling yet. Can you come up with something new? Hey, Karl Rove, can you come up with something new yet? Well, we have to have you on. Can you take your white slate? Can you talk about the Franklin Pierce? Just say something. Because we have to shovel this runaway train called media. And we have to fill this, this stove or whatever you want to call it with stuff. So just say something. My favorite was, let's have the biggest lie is body language expert. This is snake oil, but they'll have people on because they have to have something on because you got 20. You gotta keep pushing this thing 24 hours. Evan Webb says, when I started to see elections called earlier and earlier before all votes were even cast, I started to worry. But every time I said something, I was told, oh, they know. Well, yeah, sort of. It is kind of crummy when you have, by virtue of this 3-hour difference, when you're saying, well, we call it, wait a minute, I haven't voted yet. Could that affect things? Certainly. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this is, And both sides have cheated. But the thing is, you cheat within the rules. How about the fact today that we live in a system where if you don't have enough money, you're not going to win? Is that cheating? Or is that Citizens United? Edie Crowley says, Kamala might be one of the lizard people. LOL. Well, I know that's a joke, but, that's that David Icke thing. The reptilians. I am fascinated. Why he says some smart things, but the whole lizard people thing, I never. But then again, if you look at religion, I hate to say it, that's one of the things that just I will never understand. I will never ever. I have felt myself being an absolute alien among humans my entire life. I have never felt a part of them. Never, ever, ever, ever. I've never ever. You name the situation, and I'm just looking at it. Here's one for you. How many of you have seen Reagan? Anybody see Reagan yet? The movie? Anybody see Reagan? Who's seen Reagan? Anybody? Oh, and by the way, people, people do not want to hear my views on. They will tell me all day long about their faith, but they don't want me to talk about theirs. No way. Raul Rodriguez says, should Kamala talk about Aurora's housing siege? No, no. I mean, it'd be good for us, but no, of course not. She's not talking about that. She's not talking about that. Absolutely not. So here is what's going on. Did you see Reagan? You've got to see Reagan. Reagan's the most fantastic story in the world. The truth from Reagan. How about the fact that Nancy was a size 2? Nancy didn't want anybody to eat. She was anorexic, and they had no food at the ranch. What? That's coming out. You what? Did you believe that woman? What? Nancy was horrible. What? That's not what I want to hear. Now, towards the end, I felt sorry for herself. Estranged from the kids, all the people who worked there hated it. They didn't have any food. They didn't have any. They lived in this weird, like he was a real wimp. He just listened. I mean, it was a real simpleton. They had a TV tray. They would watch movies. Say, whoa, wait a minute, hold it. What are you talking about? Well, do you want to hear that part too? No, I don't want to hear that part. Well, that's the truth. Well, I don't want to hear that truth. Then don't tell me about that. What are you doing? See, people have this. It's the same way you are with religion, with faith, with God, with Jesus, with name it, history, George Washington, your parents, your conception. People love this. They don't. I love the truth. It makes me appreciate it more. You know how I used to hate magic. Oh my God, I hated magic. We had this guy one time who would come around and he'd have a deck of cards and he'd be at a bar. And I said, if you pull that thing out one more time. And you know when it changed my mind? When he said, well, let me show you how to do it. Then I love magic. Once I saw the trick, I said, oh, the trick is more interesting than that. Because I know it's a trick. I know it. But I want to know the truth. Tell me what Reagan was really about. Tell me what he was really about. Tell me when he really wanted to, when they thought maybe when they during the blood transfusion they didn't warm the blood or all this stuff. How about the fact that George Herbert Walker Bush was meeting with Hinckley's a family member? Remember that story? Was that a hit? They never talk about that. Was that a hit? Think about it. Do you think that George Herbert Walker? Oh, well, it's the first thing I think of, wouldn't you? You want to think like a cop? You want to think like a detective, or do you want to think like one of these people? Oh no, don't say that. That's what? What's the problem? Well, no, I just see now when we started to come around, people realized, well, we have to use this social media and we got to shut these people down by calling them conspiracy theorists and calling them crazy. That's where we figure. You got this one? Sparky says, wondered why the presidency wasn't turned over to Kamala a couple of years ago, since presumably she was better off cognitively than Joe. Turns out Joe's still better off cognitively than Kamala. I agree with you 100%. And they are telling him, you're going to stay at that beach now. But I don't want to go. Sit in the chair with Jill reading whatever you're doing. We want you there now. But I don't want to be at the beach. I want to be back. No. We want you there. Well, why don't you turn over the ropes to just pull the 25th Amendment and get me out? No. We want her to be out. You just do this, and you'll say, oh, you know what? She is a lot better. Okay. But you're not that bad. Now they're going to be traveling together. Watch this. We live in a world. Let me ask you a question. We live in a world. Is there any of you? Well, I shouldn't ask that. But let's assume that Stephen Hawking, when he was alive, obviously, and in his chair and suffering from ALS, would you have minded him on a presidential panel? Of course not. Stephen Hawking, they would move this guy out. I always say all the time, how do you know he's saying what he's saying? What? How do you know? How do you know he's just not out of it completely? And you're just playing back these tapes that you punched in because you're making so much money on him. He's making money. Cambridge is making money. The publisher is making money. Let's just assume he is out of it. He is like, he's just blinking barely. No cognition, nothing. And this is all pre-programmed or somebody else is doing it. How do you know that? People looked at me like, what are you? How dare you? I said, what do you mean, how dare I? How do you know this? So we don't mind what somebody looks like. If Joe's a little slow and he sits down and says, let me tell you what I am. Let me tell you what I want you to read what I wrote. And people, they could rehabilitate Joe big time, but they're not because of the fact that he's got his son, he's got those other people and whatever it is. Now, watch what happens today regarding how hostages are played. Watch this carefully. Watch how this is being played. Look at always go here. And you can start off with go to the New York Post. Front page, Hamas will pay. Israeli American 23 among 6 hostages found dead in Gaza tunnel. 10 days after parents urged son to stay strong in DNC speech. What's going to happen there? This is and by the way, do yourself a favor. Don't ask anybody in this country about that. None. They have no idea what you're talking about. Breaking news. 1 dead, multiple people injured in possible mass shooting outside of Pittsburgh. Ooh. Anybody? And we'll go any farther. Farther. No, further. Excuse me. Don't forget the difference between further and farther. Farther is if you can measure it. Further, anything else. I ran farther. I walked farther. We drove farther. Yes, it's a distance. Anything else? I studied. I went further in the career. If it's not subject to actual distance measuring, it's further. Mark Cuban polls followers on which 2024 presidential candidate they want their kids to be like. Trump won in a landslide. What does this mean? Absolutely nothing. It meant absolutely nothing. Yesterday I did a piece. I love Michael Imperioli. Did you hear this story? Did you see this story? This poor guy didn't know what the hell hit him. He didn't know what him. He thought, I'm just going to say something because I'm one of these, I guess I'm one of these Hollywood types, I guess. And I got to make sure that I maintain my allegiance because let's face it, I'm just coming out of The Sopranos and I don't have anything. I mean, I can't get a gig. Who the hell wants Christopher Moltisanti to do anything? The same thing goes for the whole group. Can you name anybody from The Sopranos who's doing better later on? Nobody. Big Pussy, gone. Steve Sharippa, gone. I think he did something. I mean, maybe he might have been But nobody else. Lorraine Bracco, oh, forget her. She's unrecognizable with all that work done. And why people do this, I have no earthly idea. There's the link I did, by the way. That's it, my friends. So anyway, so here comes this guy, and he, you know, does his thing. And lo and behold, he says, okay, so here's a picture of Kamala looking up whatever years ago. And hey, I would vote for her just because of this picture. And he just caught all kinds of grief. Supposedly, maybe he did. I don't know. If anything, he probably did it himself to say, listen, I got to get some traction. Nobody knows I'm alive. Nobody knows I'm alive. I'm doing this podcast with a Skiripa, and it's so boring because we have people on, and it's just horrible. Because the Sopranos, there's nothing to discuss. There's nothing to discuss anymore. It happens. It's like The Godfather. What are you discussing? Well, what do you think made it so popular? Stop asking that question. It was popular because it was that popular. What do you mean? No, but what do you think? What do you mean? What do I think? It was. It was. Was it the best? Well, we're going to do another reunion. Don't do any more Sopranos reunions. Don't do this because they're boring. David Chase. I don't know. Olivia was my mother. This is boring. You know, by the way, it's as an aside. You know what they always say? Just like people say, Norm Macdonald was the funniest comedian who's ever lived. Why? They just say this. And if you want to be in the group, you got to say this. Okay. David Chase and others said, well, it's about family. It's about here's Tony. How does he get along with his son and his wife? Nobody cared about Tony's relationship with AJ. Nobody. You wanted to see people get whacked. It was about the mob. You wanted to see who gets killed, that's what you wanted. But see, David Chase said, oh, no. See, it's about the family. No, it wasn't about the family. Nobody cares about them. I guarantee you, The Godfather, you never learned anything. A little bit about Fredo, a little bit about Sonny, a little bit. It was about getting Salazzo and doing this. And I love when they just say these things. They really analyzing. Rick Beato, I love him. He does that music plus Rick Beato, and he's pitch perfect. His son, Dylan or Clapton or whatever is Layla, whatever is, I think it's Dylan. This kid, he turns his back and they play a chord. He goes, D flat 7 sustained 4th over 6. Wow. I guess that's true. I don't know. And I have this idea where somebody's screaming and say, hey, Rick, what's that? C sharp major 7 with a sustained 4 flat over a 6. Anyway, he loves to talk about the Beatles. Evan says California bans deepfakes by stealing but stealing is all but legal. Yeah. What is a deepfake? Is Rich Little a deepfake? I don't think so. So anyway, thank you for that. So Rick Beato talks about the Beatles. And he will never, ever want to discuss what if something was 1 year closer. 1 year closer. 1 year off. What if there wasn't this, oh, we love the Beatles, the Beatles. There is a momentum, and I've seen this. And I see these people, sometimes there'll be at these events, and there's all these old hippies with they're bald, and they got the dyed ponytail, and they're playing Ticket to Ride. I'm thinking, how many times do you have to hear this? Or there's something worse than a Beatles tribute band. And Paul. What is this? Is the whole thing about being Liverpudlian sounding like you're stupid? I don't know. What do you think? Have you ever heard Ringo Starr ever say anything that you would want to write down? Or say, you know what, he's got a point there. Never. It's the most manufactured hype. They were great, but never as good as okay. Do you mean to tell me that Let It Be is better than Nights in White Satin? Why? I don't know. I'm not saying it is, but you see how you're being conditioned? Norm Macdonald is the funniest comedian who's ever lived. Godfather is I love people who say, I don't think The Godfather was that great. I love that. I love heretics. I love Contrarians. I love this Eric Weinstein who's going after string theory. I love it. That's what makes the world go around, not these same lackeys repeating the same nonsense about everything. And there is nothing worse than a Trump lackey. Nothing. Nothing. He is not perfect. He is not a genius. He is not sent by God. He is not on, no, he is just perfect now. He is chemotherapy for the I don't know what you want to call it, for the cancer that is these folks. He did some stuff that was just, but you know what? I don't care about that. I don't care about that. He's the only person. He's the only choice. And I don't know. And my real worry after he goes, I don't know what. I don't know if there's anybody. Can you think of one person? Maybe Tulsi Gabbard. Call Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, and one more thing. Do not become wedded to a particular idea. If somebody lets you down, tell them. I was so unimpressed with Tulsi Gabbard until now. What changed? I don't know. Maybe it's me. Now she's terrific. Bobby Kennedy is great when he's not a candidate. Bobby Kennedy is the greatest thing when he's not a candidate. Jerry Spence was the greatest. Remember the trial lawyer? I don't even know if he's alive, so I think he might be. Was the greatest guest, terrible host. Johnny Cochran, whom I loved, knew him very well, loved him. Great guest. Lousy hosts. On Core TV, they said, hey, let's put Johnny Cochran. Remember Cochran and Grace, Nancy Grace and Johnny Cochran? He didn't have it. She was box office, but and I'm sorry, that's reality. Evan Webb says, Paul expired, the Stones were better. Is that expired? We had a friend, I had a friend years ago who said to me, you don't understand something. Paul is fall. He was killed in a car wreck in 1964, and this guy is not Paul. This is fall. And that's why he had a beard, because of the scars and the plastic surgery. I said, well, this guy is a hell of a lot more talented, because this guy gave us wings and everything else, and Magneto and Titanium Man, and blah, blah, blah. And this guy is terrific. So you know what? Better that happened. Oh my God, they looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I've known people like that. That's all they talk about. They say, you don't understand. That's not Paul. I said, okay. I know what you're supposed to do, but I like it. It's like The Imposter. It's like, okay. Remember Face Off? Great movie. One of the best movies ever. This is John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. Remember that? Where they changed the faces? John Travolta was a genius. I love John Travolta as the bad guy. Same look, same guy, but as the bad guy. And the wife liked the bad guy. One of the most important movies ever. You could spend a lot of time discussing that one. They have too many people emotionally invested in this campaign. I don't love Trump. It's not what I'm talking about here. I mean, I may as a this is it's like not what you think. It's like, stop. Let's stop all this nonsense. I woke up with Charles Gasparino actually said, well, she's not going to go to the Al Smith dinner. You wrote that with a straight face? You really care about the Al Smith dinner? Oh, for God's sake. We have been talking about this so much that we've lost ourselves in all of the discussion. What does it come down to? The numbers that are posted. That's it. Who's in control of those numbers? Do you trust them? You trust those numbers? Okay. This may sound crazy, but if you saw somebody and you say, hey, Jerry, wow, you've lost so much weight. Wow. Oh my God, what have you done? I don't know. Say, whoa. What did you weigh before, Jerry? 185. 185? Wow. Hey, by the way, I got this scale. Would you get on it now? Yeah. It says 185. What are you talking about? I don't know. Well, did you or did you not lose the weight? Edie Crowley says the geeks in canned heat were the best. Wow. How about Blind? What's his name? Blind. Going up the country. I love that song. Anyway, that of course was Woodstock and that anthemic. But let me go back to what I'm saying. And thank you, Edie. What if I said, oh, no, you didn't lose weight? Why? It says 176. No, he obviously lose weight. Well, that's not what it says. According to this, you haven't lost a pound, irrespective of what you look like. You haven't lost a pound. That's what that's what elections are. Because it's that scale. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you know. I don't care. There's something wrong with that scale if it shows this guy he doesn't weigh 185. There's something wrong with this. That's not elections. And not only that, you've got people who are saying, remember, anybody who comes out with any kind of theory about elections being stolen, you're going to destroy them. So Charles Gasparino and Mark Halperin and James Carville, you can spew this crap all day long. If things were correct, yeah. But the bottom line is what the numbers say. And the numbers may be right, numbers may be wrong. I don't know. How do you know about this? You don't know. You don't know. I remember they're going to call you paranoid. They're going to call you conspiracy theorist. They're going to call you all kinds of names. And remember one thing too, if you aren't called a name, you're not doing something right. And if everybody agrees with you, you're not doing something right. If everybody agrees with you, you are of no use to me at all. If you have no detractors, you're not saying anything. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nobody finds fault with you? Nope. That's not good. Because that means you pose you're not attacking anything? Nope. No particular group feels at all threatened by you? No. You're not attacking any sacred cow? No. Wow. Not good. So, the bottom line is simply this. As I said before, we have 65 days until the election. What happens? Well, a couple of things. First, let's look for something to really change opinion. Let's look and wait to see that debate. Why is that important? They've never met. They've never met. I would camp this up ahead of time. I would make this Thriller in Manila, Rumble in the Jungle. This is the match of a lifetime. And I would also start off by saying, let everybody know. And I get a hold of the folks Dom Luker would be in my cabin. I'm saying, I want you to get the word out to your hip hop, black, young, urban brothers and sisters. Spread this. I want to bring in Latino. I want you to spread this out. I want everybody to know. Watch how Trump destroys her and watch how they'll cover her up. They'll never do it again. They're going to throw this off. She's going to throw the mic she wants open so she can say, watch how many times she says, let me talk. We'll have a drinking game. Spread this ahead of time. Here we go. Then I employ the social media folks with their memes and GIFs and everything to come forward and to explicate, further describe how monumentally unfair this is from the get-go. From the get-go. I would say she's scared. She doesn't know what she's doing. Play this. Keep it going. Let them catch up. Describe the narrative. What? Social media. Social media is it. Or you could talk about the Al Smith dinner and how that's going to be a real shapeshifter. Like, what if she doesn't go to the Al Smith? Oh my God. No, watch what happens. Watch what happens and watch how all of a sudden. What do you think made Taylor Swift? By the way, you notice how Taylor Swift's kind of out of the news? You notice this? You see how fast? Remember, always pay attention. Watch. She's kind of like, okay, that was enough. You knew that couldn't last forever. She's already done it. Believe me, she made more money than anybody could ever do. She's not the Beatles. The Beatles, Taylor Swift will never enjoy this, but in terms of box office, for whatever it's worth, she did it. Learn how people are into trends. Remember this. Why did so many people get so many tattoos overnight? Why? They will do anything to look cool, even if they destroy themselves, even if they scar themselves perfectly. Now, right now, bottom line is this. Okay, Swami, Nostradamus, is Trump going to win? He could, but it's even easier for him not to. It's even easier. And I would scare these people. I'm going to give you this. I told you how I love raptors, abatement raptors. How this one little peregrine falcon can clear out an entire acres and acres and acres of this Napa Valley when the berries and the grapes are perfect and ready for harvesting. Here come these starlings. They come in and they destroy millions of dollars. And they tried everything. Shooting shotguns, putting nets, spraying, loud music, scarecrow. Nothing worked. The birds immediately said, that's nuts, because they get used to it. Until this one guy shows up with his 3 birds. One is the one that flies really low and flushes out, just scares the hell out of these, brings the starlings up. The middle one, I don't know if it's a falcon, an eagle, who the hell knows? A hawk. The middle one is in the middle catching them, but the most important is the one at the very top that signals, I'm here. This is mine. And all the birds say, I'm out of here. We're done. Forget it. 3 birds. That's it. Whatever this guy, he doesn't charge enough. That's all it, because once they saw this, they go, uh-oh. And every single day on every show, I would have people come in just like they explain the David Blaine thing. Here's what I would do. I would go to the voter rolls. What do you mean? And I would say it over. Well, let's say you get this. Lo and behold, you're sitting there and somebody says, well, here's a ballot. Let's open it up. Okay, great. How do we know this came from this? Is there a mark on there? Is there a scanning? Is there a UPC code? I don't know. Well, let's look at the name. Demetrius Splitkin Jr. Let's run and see. Does his name appear on anything else? No. Is he in the driver's license roll? No. Does he own any property? No. Did he vote last year? Maybe. What address does he live in? 123 Main Street. In East Burlington. Let's look. Are there any other addresses? As a matter of fact, yes. Did you know there are 50 people who use this address with this zip code? Well, what is this house? Can we look? Sure. Oh my God, it's a vacant lot. It's a Best Buy. Do it once, do it again. Why? I'm that bird. And I want all these people to say, oh my God, they're on to us. Hey, Lara, do us a favor. Forget the triathlon you're running and go on every show and say, that's what we're doing. Well, let's look at this. And you have people in. Is this okay? Is this Secretary of State? Yes, for Pennsylvania. Have you ever done a ballot purge? I don't want to talk to you. Why aren't you talking to me? So that whatever the results are, you turn to the country and say, see? Could be their worst nightmare. It was, and you know what's the most important? They would say, we did nothing wrong. Come forward and say, I'm glad you brought that up. We did an audit 2 times, 3 times, 4. You've got nothing to worry about. Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's move on. But we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. We talk about look at real right side broadcasting. Oh, look how many people are at the rally. Who cares about that? They love Trump. Does that surprise you? No. They love that. Imagine talking to Americans about ballots and what? I don't understand that. I don't understand why they would have one ballot. You know, we look at other countries, even in Iraq. You know, they when who was it? Was it Iraq, or I guess they have the purple thumb, and you know, and they knew right away. Why is it that we don't know exactly at 9:01 who won? That's like another. Did you ever see this in French elections? They know right away. Well, we're going to still count 3 weeks after. Wait a minute, what? Hey, Lara, you want to talk about that? Why are you doing this 3 weeks after? Are you kidding me? And it's the same thing every single year. Every single year. Prove me wrong. Show us how it's done. Let's have documentaries. Let's go into this. Let's have somebody you can say, okay, we've hired somebody. You know those undercover bosses. You ever seen these guys? We've actually called the president this man, and always have the bad makeup because he can't do wigs. You notice that? Bad beards. This is the CEO of Starbucks or Foot Locker or whatever the hell it is, and he's going to come in, and the person there is not going to notice this crew with cameras and lights. They're not going to notice this. They're not going to say, "Hey, I think this guy who showed up might be not who we think he is." Why? Well, because of these cameras, and they're following it. You know, but aside from that, but do you think they would have somebody? And now it's Fox special, CNN special, MSDNC. How would you do it? You have these people wearing, masks or pixelated or in the dark. You have their voices. How would you steal this? Oh, simple. I would do, or I would do, all right, because they don't count the addresses or whatever it was. It would be the story of a life. Forget this other. It would be so interesting, and I'd be flushing out the predators. They would say, well, we can't use this method anymore. Why? Because they've exposed it. We never talk about that. Never. You'll hear a story here, a little bit there in the voter rolls and the ballots. Charlie Kirk is going to have his team there. Oh, imagine that. Oh, Eagle Eye is going to be able to have his people walking. What are you doing? Where are you from? Hey, are you? And they're going to tell Charlie, get out of this precinct. Who are you? I'm Charlie Kirk, by God, or whoever it is. And I'm going to make sure all the voting's on the level. Get out of here. Okay, but still. Do I keep the 20 million? Yes. Oh, thank God. Look, they think we're stupid. And that goes for the Democrats, Republicans. They think that we're just stupid. I mean, honest to God, they think that you'll fall for anything. And it's not your fault because you're busy. You're busy. You're busy with your own life, and nobody's looking out for you. Nobody's helping you. Nobody's saying, you know what, that's a good point. Nobody. Think about this. Do you think anybody, the day you see Hannity or somebody come forward, oh, forget it. Because I'll bet you there was more internal what am I trying to say? Memos that say, don't you dare mention anything about voting. We don't talk about voting. We don't say anything about it. It's all groovy. Everything's fine. Everything's terrific. Don't ever talk about it. Really? Oh, of course not. Don't talk about it. It's the first thing I want to do. So be very, very, very wary. That's all. Edie Crowley, Evan Webb, thank you. Sparky, Raul Rodriguez. Ryan, thank you. You've been so terrific. Also, make sure you follow Mrs. L at the following. Let me get right here. Just a second. Right here. Here we go. It's important that you follow these. Follow her at Lynn's Warriors on YouTube. And there is the link I provide for you. This link, go right there, goes right to the sign up page. And also make sure you follow her on YouTube as well. I do one of the things which I'm the most uninterested in, but I do it every now and then just whatever, is Instagram. Other people swear by it. I just but anyway, it's Lionel Media, so there you go. You can do whatever you want. Cobb says, "Good morning, sir. I pray have a means." Good morning, sir. I pray have a means to make DJ Donald Trump aware. Yeah. The thing that Trump did, which I'll never forget. And I know he's learned it, but when he walked in there, they set him up because they said, "Okay, you're going to pick." Remember this guy, Tillotson or Tillerson, the guy from Exxon, whatever. Who was the one? Well, Condoleezza Rice suggested no. General Mattis, General Kelly, all these rats and these quislings. I hope he has the ability to tell who's who. He's got to be very, very bloodthirsty with understanding there are people there who are trying to hurt him. Now, I do like this potential cabinet or advisors, Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi, General Flynn. Oh, bring them all in. Vivek, bring them all in. Everybody shake. Remember, think about the Raptors going in and flushing out the abatement predators. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. Scare the deep state. Get them out. Shadow government. Oh, my God. Fire people left and right. Go in and find out, how can I leave? How can I take that selective, that executive, that for years, this entrenched, that's really the deep state, or these people who are just fixtures, the permanent Washington elite. Oh, I would do everything in my power just to destroy them. That's what I would do. All right, my friends. Thank you so very much. Have a great and a glorious day. Today is the first day of September. A day I'll always remember. All right, dear friends. See you tonight at 7. And don't forget to subscribe to Lionel Nation. Lionel Nation. And until then, remember, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue you. Dead.